Good afternoon and good morning, everyone. Very excited to have you all and welcome you all to our session. My name is Suki Steckel and I am on the Intact team. And I'm here with our speakers today. And we have Anna Maria Segretti and Ashley Danny. And they are going to talk about the voices of the high fidelity wraparound workforce, recruitment, cultivation, and retention strategies. And just a couple of quick housekeeping notes before we get started. If please continue to engage as you have been all throughout the summit in the chat. You're welcome to use those emoticons and put comments in the chat. If you have a question or would like to be invited to the stage to ask a question, please navigate to the Q&A bubbles on the vertical menu to do that, and we will take your questions at the end. And also, please remember just right before we leave the session today to navigate to the survey, which is the little check mark box. We really want your feedback, and you can start to fill that out right towards during the Q&A portion, or right towards the end. But as soon as you navigate out of this screen, you we'll kind of lose the link to that survey. I mean, you can come back to it if you want, but it'll be easier to do that when you're done right before we leave, and I'll make an announcement again right before we leave. So I appreciate your time being here, and I'll turn it over to you, Anna Maria and Ashley.
Thanks, Suki. Hello, everybody. This presentation, as Suki mentioned, is called The Voices of the High Fidelity Wraparound Workforce, Recruitment, Cultivation, and Retention Strategies. So thank you all for joining us. My name is Anna Maria Segretti, and I am the Research Project Coordinator at the Youth and Family Training Institute. And today I'm going to be presenting with Ashley Danny, who is the Program Coordinator at the Youth and Family Training Institute. And we just want to start off by thanking the System of Care Summit for giving us the opportunity to present to you all today. So today we're actually going to be using an interactive presentation software called Mentimeter to better engage with the audience. So most of you may have already understand how to use this from attending other presentations during the summit. But just to remind you how it works, we'll be asking you several different questions throughout the presentation. And you'll be able to interact with us by answering those questions and then viewing the responses in real time. So in order to do so, please take a minute and go to menti.com and type in the 8-digit code on the screen, or you can scan the QR code with your smartphone. And when you're finished doing this, feel free to click on the thumbs up button so that we know you completed this step. I'm seeing some thumbs up, one thumb down. I'll give you a couple more minutes here. And then also, just to let you know, you'll be able to interact with us throughout the presentation slides by clicking on either the thumbs up, thumbs down, the heart, and the cat emojis that are throughout Mentimeter. And that just lets us know that you're still listening and enjoying the presentation. And if you're wondering, the cat emoji is just for fun. So no meaning to that.
There is also, we posted the link in the chat in case anyone else is having any type of difficulty. If you click on the link, it should take you right to our presentation.
I think we should be good to move on. So just to start things off, we just want to ask you a couple questions. So first, how is everyone feeling today? So you can take a minute to answer the question. The answer choices in Menti are excited, happy, silly, tired, busy, or hangry. I know depending on the time of day, the time zone that you're in, you guys might be missing some lunch right now. So I apologize if you're hangry. So busy, okay, yeah. See, most of you are feeling busy and a lot happy. That's good to see. Happy and busy, neck and neck. That's good to see.
We got a hangry person in here.
Yeah. I feel you. Okay, so now that you get the feel of how to use Mentimeter, we just want to ask where everyone's joining us from. So your answer choices are the Northeast, Southeast, Midwest, the West, or out of the country. Okay, nice. I see the Northeast is leading the way. That's good to see. That's where we're at.
Seems like we have someone from every corner of the United States on here today.
Yep. It's good to see. Okay, so here's a quick look at our agenda for today. So first, we're going to discuss the Youth and Family Training Institute, including our System of Care grant partners, followed by the High Fidelity Wraparound workforce, consisting of facilitators, family support partners, and youth support partners. Then we're going to discuss the training of the workforce. Then we're going to explore our workforce surveys, including the purpose, design, time points, collection, and demographic information, followed by the survey data results, future advice from workforce members, and coaching and training suggestions. And then we're going to show you a few examples of our online data dashboards and how they work. Finally, we're going to wrap things up with our summary by explaining some of our recruitment, cultivation, and retention strategies, followed by our learning outcomes and key takeaways from the presentation. And then we'll conclude with a few discussion questions for you to consider. So originally, the Youth and Family Training Institute, or YFTI, was developed in 2007 to train, coach, and credential the high fidelity wraparound workforce across Pennsylvania, as well as to monitor the outcomes related to the process model. YFTI partners include the PA Department of Human Services, the Office of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, or OMSAS, Community Care Behavioral Health Organization, and the University of Pittsburgh Department of Psychiatry. And I just want to mention that we're also the evaluation partners for the following SAMHSA System of Care grants: the Allegheny County Community of Practice System of Care, Behavioral Health Alliance of Rural Pennsylvania, or BHARP System of Care Expansion and Sustainability Project, the Luzerne, Wyoming System of Care, and the Pennsylvania Cooperative Agreements for the Expansion and Sustainability of the Statewide System of Care. So next, we're going to be discussing High Fidelity Wraparound, which is a team-based collaborative process that develops, implements, and monitors individualized plans for youth with mental health challenges and multi-system involvement and their families. The Pennsylvania High Fidelity Wraparound workforce consists of a facilitator, a family support partner, and a youth support partner, who all work together in equal partnership with the enrolled youth and families under the direction of a coach. Currently, there are a total of 15 counties across Pennsylvania that are using the High Fidelity Wraparound process. The different counties are highlighted across the map there in orange for you to see. Okay, so here's our next Mentimeter question. It is, do you have High Fidelity Wraparound in your state? The answer choices are yes, no, and unsure.
Also, for anyone that might be having any difficulties, the instructions on how to get to this are at the top of this slide. Go to menti.com, input the code. The link has been shared a couple times in the chat, so hopefully you can get there. We can figure it out.
Thanks, Ashley. Oh, wow. It looks like we have a lot of yeses. Okay, that's really interesting to see. So most of you have an understanding of high fidelity wraparound. So moving on, we're going to be discussing the workforce, which include the facilitators who support the youth, family, and the high fidelity wraparound team to develop individualized plans to achieve the family's overall vision. Some of their functions are listed below, including working with the peer support partners to engage the youth and family in the process, as well as empowering the youth and family to reach their goals. The peer support partners are also an integral part of the high fidelity wraparound team, which include both family support partners or FSPs and youth support partners or YSPs. The family support partners are the primary caregivers who are successfully managing their child's behavioral health challenges and also have direct experience navigating various child serving systems. And the youth support partners are young adults who have a mental health diagnosis and they are actively managing their own mental health challenges. And something I also want to point out is that certain states may refer to family support partners as family peers and youth support partners as youth peers. The main functions of the peer support partners are listed below, including using their own personal stories to help transfer skills to the youth and families, as well as connecting youth and families with resources in their communities. And as I mentioned earlier, YFTI provides all of the training, coaching, and credentialing to the high fidelity wraparound workforce across Pennsylvania. As part of the training, the workforce undergoes a 5-day high fidelity wraparound team training. All of the workforce also participate in an intensive year-long coaching process that allow them to demonstrate the skills of the high fidelity wraparound model. And then upon completion of the training process, the workforce become credentialed. Okay, we have our next Mentimeter question. It is, have you ever received or given peer support? So your answer choices are yes, received, yes, given, yes to both, no to neither, and then unsure. So we have a lot of no's coming in so far. Oh, good. We have some yeses. That's good to see.
I saw we also have a comment that not formally, but peers have supported them a lot in the work that they've done. So that's great to hear.
Okay, so moving along, we're going to be discussing our workforce survey and its origins and purpose. As you may know, recruitment and retention of staff in the mental health field has been problematic in recent years, especially since COVID. Therefore, we wanted our workforce to feel valued and appreciated. So our goal was to gain a better understanding of the strengths and challenges of each workforce role and how to better support their needs. We also wanted to discover individual growth, success stories, achievements, and training recommendations. Therefore, in 2020, to better understand the needs of the high fidelity wraparound workforce in Pennsylvania during challenging times, we decided to create surveys for the workforce members. And something that I would like to point out here is the key takeaway that's listed at the bottom of the slide, which is that creating a workforce survey is actually a great way to capture the needs of your staff. And to help us develop questions for the survey, YFTI conducted 3 separate focus groups consisting of high fidelity wraparound workforce across Pennsylvania. So one of the focus group contained 5 facilitators, one had 5 family support partners, and one had 5 youth support partners. So we provided each of our focus groups with a draft of the survey, and then they determined what questions should and should not be included. So final survey questions consisted of descriptive demographics, lived experience, current health, skills learned, challenges faced, future impacts, and advice to new hires, and training suggestions. There were also some pros and cons to conducting a focus group that I would like to point out though. So some of the pros include that we gave the workforce a good understanding of the questions that we wanted to ask and our overall purpose for the survey. And then they also provided us with valuable feedback on what types of questions should be included. Some of the cons include that some focus group members were less likely to share their input than others in the group, and a few wanted the survey to include different information than its intended purpose. But ultimately, though, the key takeaway from this is that conducting a focus group with staff is valuable for generating the appropriate questions when designing a survey. There are a few different time points that I want to explain pertaining to our survey. So first, in September of 2020, the focus group with the youth support partners was held and the survey was created and launched. And then in 2021, using the youth support partner survey as a template, the focus group for the family support partners was conducted and they incorporated additional questions to better fit the needs of their role. And the family support partner survey was launched in May of 2021. Finally, in 2022, using the Family Support Partner Survey as a template, the facilitator focus group was held, and the survey was updated to include specific questions for their role and also remove some questions that didn't really apply to them. The facilitator survey was then launched in April of 2022. And each workforce survey is collected yearly to include responses from new hires and to follow up with existing staff. So something though that I would like to point out is that all the data that is included in this presentation are from 2022 surveys. And that's in order to keep the comments relevant to our current challenges. And all of our survey data was collecting using the online cloud-based survey tool called SurveyMonkey. YFTI emailed the survey links to each workforce member across the state, and the links remain the same each year. So that makes it easy to send to new hires and staff for follow-up surveys every year. And YFTI also compensated each workforce member for completing the survey. Surveys took roughly about 15 to 20 minutes to complete. And the key takeaway is that collecting virtual surveys makes it easy to obtain responses from staff who work across the state. The interesting thing about our surveys is that the results consist of the diverse high fidelity wraparound workforce who live across Pennsylvania's rural, suburban, and urban communities. The workforce includes people identifying across a variety of genders, races, ethnicities, age groups, and educational backgrounds. Workforce who participated have been employed in their roles for varying lengths of time. And workforce also have various levels of lived experience with mental health and other system needs. So 100% of the youth support partners reported having lived experience as a youth. 100% of the family support partners reported having lived experience as a family member. And about 50% of the facilitators reported having lived experience as either a youth and or family member. Okay, we have another Mentimeter question for you. That is, have you ever conducted a staff survey? So your answer choices are yes or no. I see most of you have so far. that's good to see that there's a lot of yeses, some nos.
All right.
Okay.
Wow.
I'm now going to pass things over to Ashley, and she's going to walk us through some of the data that we received from the surveys.
Thanks. So, disclaimer, if you are not a data person, it is okay. I understand. I will not be offended. Please bear with me. I promise it's not terrible. Okay. So, I want to start off by talking about the demographics of the people that actually completed this survey in 2022. So, I'm going to start with the facilitators. In 2022, we had 31, 25 females and 6 males that completed the survey, and their average range was 36 years old. However, the actual range was anywhere from 22 to 54. The table contains a bunch of the demographic info that we collected from the survey, and something interesting that I thought was cool to point out. The majority of the facilitators that took this survey have at least a bachelor's degree. And you can also see on the last column that the length of employment varies from less than 6 months in their role to over 6 years in their role. And now we're going to look at the family support partners. So we had 18 family support partners complete this survey in 2022. There were 17 females and 1 male, and the average age was 50 years old. But again, that range was from 25 to 70. So there's a big range there. So not only do we see that the age varies a lot within this group, but so does the education level, as well as their length of employment. So you can see length of employment kind of equals out between less than 6 months, 6 to 12 months, up to 6+ years in their role. And then finally, we have the youth support partners. So we had 13 youth support partners complete the survey in 2022. There were 11 females and 2 males, with the average age being around 25. The range was 21 to 29, so you can see that age range kind of really shrunk down for this group. But I did want to point out that most of the youth support partners do have their high school diploma, and the majority of them have been in their role for less than a year. We also wanted to share some of the lived experience results that we got. So out of the 31 facilitators that completed the survey, 60% of them were parents. And the top 3 systems that the facilitators have lived experience with include mental health, special education, and early childhood intervention. Out of the 18 family support partners who completed the survey, every single one of them are parents. And they have an average of 3 children, 2 of which were diagnosed with a mental or behavioral health concern. And then out of the 13 youth support partners that completed this survey, 46% identified as parents. And then the top 3 systems that family support partners and youth support partners identified that they had experience with were mental health, special education, and physical health. So with that, we have our next Mentimeter question. We want to know, do you have any lived experience with child serving systems? Yes, no, unsure. Oh, we got a bunch of yeses. Okay. All right. We got a bunch of yeses, some nos, some unsures. That's okay. All right. So moving on. Maybe. There we go. Okay. So now we're going to get into some of the data. We put them into graphs so they're a little bit easier to understand. I'm going to walk you through each question. And we pretty much just highlighted the ones that we thought were really interesting and wanted to share. With the first couple graphs I'm going to show you, I want you to keep in mind that we did group the facilitators, the family support partners, and the youth support partners all together. The reason we did this was because the responses that we received were so similar, it didn't make a lot of sense to keep those three groups separate for these questions. So the first question we want to highlight were skills. Did you feel like you have the necessary skills to do your job? Obviously, that's very important. We want our workforce members to feel like they are capable of doing their job. So as you can see, most of our respondents said mostly or always, those big green pieces of the pie there. And then we also switched it up a little bit. We did an open-ended question. People could type in their responses, and we decided to turn these responses into a word cloud. So if you don't know, with a word cloud, the more that a word is used, the bigger that it becomes within the word cloud. Sorry. So as you can see from this, when we asked what personal skills or qualities have helped you to succeed in your role, the 5 main ones were determination, independence, empathy, confidence, and self-reliance. You can also see there's some other ones in there: strength, kindness, motivation. So we thought this was a really good way to highlight all of the responses that we got. And with that in mind, we're going to create our own word cloud. So what personal skills have helped you succeed in your job? You can enter a word, at least one, but you can submit up to 3. And we're going to watch our word cloud grow here on the screen. We got a bunch for empathy. Stubbornness. Okay. Listening, understanding, patience. All right. Compassion. Collaboration. Oh, wow. Okay, let's see. Active listening I saw in there before everything shifted again. Creativity, dedication, curiosity. I like that one. Empowering others, good supervision, support, advocacy. These are really great responses. Oh, we're still going. Okay. All right. Well, those are all awesome. I agree with all of them. Okay. So, so moving on. We wanted to know if the workforce members felt supported in their roles. We know that support plays such a huge role, and we also know that these roles require them to support others. So it's a lot of give and take, a lot of back and forth. So we just wanted to make sure that our workforce members felt supported. So we asked them directly, do you feel supported by your other workforce members? And obviously you can see that the majority of the responses we got were mostly or always, which is excellent. We definitely want to see that. And in that same vein, we also asked if they felt supported by their employer. So we asked, do you have the support that you need from your employer to continue to succeed in your position in the future? And again, you can see mostly or always were our top answers. This one was a little bit more spread out with a few people doing a little or sometimes. But overall, they felt supported, which is great. And then our last question that we're going to highlight about supports, we asked them directly, who do you turn to for support? This question was a select all that apply. So every person, if they wanted to, could select every category. They could select one, they could select 5, whatever they felt like they wanted to do. So you can see that the top 3 that we had responses for were friends, spouses and partners, and parents. You can also see that coworkers and siblings are pretty high up there too. And there are some other supports trending towards the bottom that you can see too. So on the other hand, obviously, not everything is roses. And we wanted to know what challenges the workforce faced. So we asked, being a workforce member can be challenging. In what ways have you felt this? Again, this was a select all that applied option. And as you can see from the chart, the biggest challenge areas are that the workforce faced included the emotional and credentialing aspects. So 89% reported that their role was emotionally challenging, and 79% reported that credentialing was challenging. I also want to point out that financially challenging is pretty high up there. It's really not far behind credentialing at all. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. So because of these challenges, we wanted to know how often the workforce practices their self-care. Doing these focus groups, a lot of the different roles suggested that we ask this question because so many do practice their self-care. They realize the importance of it. So even though these results vary a bit more, we decided it was best to separate these just because the answers that we got are a little bit different between the groups. So the facilitators are going to be that tan color. The family support partners are in the green, and the youth support partners are the orange. And as you can see, it does seem like a lot of people practice their self-care. For facilitators in particular, there is an outlier at the not at all, but for the most part, at least they practice it a few times a month, if not more often. And you can kind of see the family support partners and the youth support partners are a little bit more spread out. The next graph we're going to move to was the challenge, that third challenge that we saw earlier. So we wanted to know, do you make enough money to support your financial needs? And for me, what was most shocking about this is that 55% of the family support partners that took this survey said not at all, which is very impactful to think about. Again, we broke up the groups for this graph. So same colors, facilitators tan, family support partners green, youth support partners orange. Overall, it does seem like most of the responses we got are trending towards the lower end of the scale, from sometimes a little or not at all. Okay, so moving on, we did ask a bunch of multiple choice questions. You know, they're easier for people to respond to. Yes, no, maybe, unsure, all that stuff. But we also wanted to give the workforce a chance to respond in their own words. So we implemented a bunch of open-ended questions. So we asked everyone that took the survey, how has being a workforce member impacted your life? So we wanted to highlight some of the responses we got. A facilitator said that they've learned how to better multitask and make small plans towards their goals. They have learned greater empathy and understanding for different walks of life and how to see the strengths and positives in others. They've learned how to find resources for themselves and advocate for themselves throughout doing so for others. Their worldview has expanded since becoming a facilitator, and they've learned the importance of building connections with others, trusting others, maintaining a strong support system, and allowing people to help them. We had a family support partner say that they've been giving the opportunity to support individuals from a wide array of backgrounds, ethnicities, and cultures, and it gives them a valuable experience if they seek to continue supporting individuals in this capacity. And then finally, we had a youth support partner say that they consider this job to be a stepping stone career into the human services and mental health field. The skills that they will continue to learn and the knowledge obtained will help them with advancing into other areas. They think these skills will come in handy when they decide to start their own family. We also asked our workforce what advice they would give to new members that join their workforce. So you can see there's a bunch of different ones, but just to highlight a few: scheduling time for your own self-care, follow and trust the High Fidelity Wraparound process, be understanding of other situations, and understand that you cannot fix everything. Okay. So we also asked what training our workforce thought would be beneficial. What coaching training do you still need to better feel supported in your role? So we got a bunch of different responses. Some of them include trauma-informed care, self-care, work-life balance and establishing boundaries, community outreach, how to handle difficult situations, and navigating the different systems. And with that, we're going to our next Mentimeter question. What do you think is the most challenging aspect of conducting a workforce survey? This is an open-ended question, so feel free to put a word in or a few words in. Please don't feel like you have to write a paragraph. There we go. Getting responses, yeah. Getting honest feedback. Trusting that something will actually change from the responses. Getting buy-in and honest feedback, yeah. Getting transparent answers that are solution focused that we can act upon. Let's see. Oh, there's some other ones. Reluctance of being transparent. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I like that. Using the survey results to make real change, not just performing lip servicing.
I was going to say the same thing. I said that's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, these are all great. Okay. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Anna Maria, and she's going to walk you through our data dashboards and how we use them to display the results that we get from our surveys.
Thanks, Ashley. All of our de-identified survey results are displayed online using data dashboards. And the data responses for each question can be viewed in graphs, tables, and charts. And our key takeaway is that the workforce actually has access to these data dashboards, and they can view them collectively online and see the responses. Each workforce role has their own set of dashboards. So there's one for the youth support partners, there's one for the family support, and one for the facilitators. And they're broken down into specific menu categories to help keep the data well organized. And each menu also contains a description of what is included inside of each dashboard. So you can see over here that the red arrow is actually pointing to the menu description that is located on the right side of the screen. And each individual dashboard contains charts, tables, or graphs that display the responses to each survey question. For example, this dashboard shows 3 of our survey questions related to how each facilitator heard about their role, how long they've been employed, and if they currently have more than one job. And this information is very useful to have. So our key takeaway is that the coaches can actually use this as a recruiting tool to explore how the workforce heard about their job positions, and then they can use these sites for future job postings. And an interesting feature that all of our dashboards contain are demographic filters that can be used to look for any trends within the data. So to show you an example of the data filters, when I filtered for the urban versus suburban living setting on this dashboard, you can see how the graphs change from the top to the bottom based on the differences in ethnicity, age, race, and gender between those who live in an urban setting compared to those who live in a more suburban area. So you can see that using the dashboard filters is just a great way to explore differences throughout the data. And then to show you another example of our data filters, I examined the question, being a family support partner has helped me to grow in my self-confidence. And I chose to use the length employed filter here to see if there was any difference between family supports who have been employed less than 1 year versus family supports who have been employed 3 or more years. And by doing so, I actually discovered that 50% of the family support partners who have been employed less than 1 year reported either not at all or only a little with growing in self-confidence from their role, which is shown in the top graph at the top, the donut chart. I then compared this with the family support partners who have been employed in their role 3 years or more. And they reported either mostly or always with growing in self-confidence from their role, which is shown in the bottom donut graph. So that's a really interesting comparison to be able to examine this. And a key takeaway that's helpful is that coaches should know that confidence is not always present when the workforce are just starting in their roles. And additional coaching can be provided to help new staff grow in their self-confidence. So throughout the surveys, as Ashley mentioned before, there are actual several open-ended questions where the workforce would type in their responses. And then we discovered common themes throughout these written comments. So specific theme categories were created for each question that contained written comments. We then grouped each written comment into a corresponding themed category. So each theme category is then displayed in bar graphs located onto the dashboards. So a key takeaway, though, is that to better understand the needs of your workforce, written survey comments are easier to view and understand when they are grouped into like specific themes. And then this dashboard here shows you an example of those themed categories that I was just referring to, and their corresponding comments that go into each category. So an exciting component, though, to this dashboard is you can actually select any themed category within the bar graph, and it will pivot the table to display the specific comments that correspond to that given category. So then you can read each comment that was provided inside of the survey. A similar example to the category graphs and tables is displayed with our pivot charts. So by clicking on different pieces of the pie chart in this dashboard, the table will pivot to the corresponding comments. So for example, if you select, I always have the skills to do my job in the pie chart, then the table will display the personal written comments from those family support partners that have helped them to succeed in their role. So a key takeaway is that in order to help cultivate current staff, it's important to understand how workforce view themselves when they have the skills to actually perform their job. Our dashboards also display all of the training and coaching suggestions from each survey. Coaches can view the suggestions from the workforce to discover if there's any coaching or training needs. So a final key takeaway here is that to better retain staff, coaches can provide their workforce with the suggested coaching and trainings. So we have our next Mentimeter question for you. What do you find is the number one reason for workforce turnover? So this is a multiple choice question. Your answer choices are compensation, poor workforce relationships, inefficient management, overwhelming caseloads, burnout, or lack of growth opportunities. We're getting some good responses in. I see a lot of burnout. And compensation as well. Yeah, that's really interesting to see. I see the most common is burnout overall. Okay. So next, Ashley is actually going to summarize everything for us. She's going to go over the key takeaways once again and just sum things up for us.
Thanks. Okay. So, keeping recruitment in mind, dashboards can be used as a tool for coaches to see how the workforce heard about their different roles. They can view the sites that are the most popular according to the survey responses and post new job positions on those sites to get better responses. Having online access to the survey results also helps the coaches to discover the skills and personal qualities that are beneficial for each role to possess when hiring new candidates. The Youth and Family Training Institute revised their onboarding tools to provide better structure for new hires, and they also adapted the High Fidelity Wraparound 5-day team training for new hires to be provided both virtually and in person, which allows for more frequent trainings and incorporated the workforce feedback into those trainings. When thinking about cultivation, coaches can view the strengths, challenges, and needs that the workforce face by viewing the comments on the dashboards. They can discover how the workforce members are feeling in their roles and if they have the necessary skills to perform their jobs. Dashboards reveal that by establishing good relationships with their workforce team, viewing each family with fresh eyes, and never giving up, the workforce can obtain the desired outcomes from their roles. The Youth and Family Training Institute incorporated monthly Zoom calls for each workforce role across the state for additional collaboration of ideas and support. And the Youth and Family Training Institute coaching staff has increased check-ins with credentialed coaches. And they also brought back in-person coaching with staff across the state. Thinking about retention. The dashboards display the suggested training and coaching needs of the workforce. And by incorporating these trainings, we can provide the workforce with the additional help and support that they need. YFTI, or the Youth and Family Training Institute, increased individualized coaching support to agencies for practicing skills and group coaching. And the Youth and Family Training Institute coaching staff also participated in virtual live meetings with the families to better support the team. YFTI has incorporated biannual in-person fidelity review site visits with all the counties. And we've also created a role day where all High Fidelity Wraparound staff across Pennsylvania will meet to discuss various ideas, and each role will have the opportunity to collaborate with one another. So, what are the key takeaways from all of this data that we just threw at you all at once? Conducting a workforce survey provided us with valuable information about the needs and wants of the High Fidelity Wraparound workforce in Pennsylvania. Focus groups consisting of High Fidelity Wraparound workforce members helped us to design the appropriate questions for the survey. The survey was designed and collected virtually, which makes it easy to obtain responses from staff all over the state, and workforce have access to the survey results. The de-identified data are displayed online using our data dashboards from the workforce to view collectively in easy to read charts, tables, and graphs. It is easier to view and understand survey comments when they are grouped into themed categories and charted in graphs. And the data dashboards can be used for recruiting new hires by viewing how workforce heard about their roles, cultivating the current workforce by examining if they have the necessary skills to perform their job, and identifying training and coaching needs to help retain the workforce. So with that, we want your opinion. Which key takeaway did you find the most helpful and will be more likely to use? So your options are conducting a staff survey, holding a workforce focus group, virtual collection of the survey, workforce having access to the data, grouping survey comments into theme categories, or using online data dashboards. All right. Pretty evenly split up here. Half and half. Okay. Workforce having access to the data. Someone said it was tough to pick just one. I'm sorry we did that to you. Maybe we should have made this a multiple choice question. Okay. So it looks like the top two are conducting a staff survey and workforce having access to the data. Oh. Okay. Okay, so with that, we wanted to leave you with some questions for you to consider. Obviously, we don't expect you to have the answers. It's just kind of something to take with you, think about, see what happens. So some of the questions we came up with was, how can you better support the needs of your staff during difficult times? Can you apply any information that you learned today to your own workforce? What do you find most useful about conducting a workforce survey? If you do conduct a staff survey, how can you display the results and provide them to staff members? And finally, are there any additional trainings that you can provide to your staff to support their learning? And with that, this is our website for the Youth and Family Training Institute. Please feel free to visit it if you are so inclined. There's some information about our workforce surveys and about some other stuff on there. And that is YFTIPA.org. And then we have our contact information. You can email the Youth and Family Training Institute directly at yfti@upmc.edu. And Anna Maria and myself have also provided our emails in case anyone feels like they want to reach out. And finally, we just want to thank you all so much for your attendance and participation. And we hope that you enjoyed our presentation. So with that, we do have, if you do have any questions, you can put them into here or put them into the Q&A, whichever you're more comfortable with. Please know if you do put a question into Mentimeter, it will show up on the screen, just in case. I appreciate the claps that I'm seeing.
Yes, thank you for all of the emojis throughout.
Ashley, we have a couple questions in the Q&A.
Okay.
I can share them on the screen, or we can ask Marcella or Tara to join us on stage.
Yeah, we can ask them to join us if they would like to. Let me stop sharing. There we go.
This is our first question.
Okay. Curious to hear if you found differences between delivering wraparound in person versus virtually in terms of preference and efficacy. So we did have a bunch of questions around this topic. And I think they were kind of divided. A lot of people said that they liked that it was virtual because they could provide more services to more people, they could connect with more people. On the other hand, we all know technology definitely has its hiccups. It's tough for everyone to get access to the internet, to a tablet, to something so the workforce could get in contact with families. Anna Marie, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah. So some of the downsides to doing the high fidelity wraparound virtually that I remember from these surveys specifically were it was rough with engagement with new families. So when a new family would be enrolled into high fidelity wraparound, the engagement process wasn't as smooth as they hoped it would be. It didn't. Some families didn't know how to use the virtual platforms, didn't always attend the virtual meetings. So that was a little rough in the beginning. And I also remember that they had to teach certain families how to use Zoom or whatever platform they were using. So that was another bump in the road. So there were definitely some struggles and challenges between virtual versus doing it in person. I know it's high fidelity wraparound is usually a very hands-on in-person experience. So they go to the family's homes and they interact and they attend meetings together. So having that lack of face-to-face communication was also a little rough in the beginning, just missing that human interaction.
Okay. Do you have a coaching model, a coaching endorsement training track, or process to develop coaches in high fidelity wraparound?
Yes. Yes, we do have coaching models, and we actually our coaching and training staff also. I know they have gone to both Utah and North Carolina to train staff there for the high fidelity wraparound model that we use in Pennsylvania. So yes, there is a model that we use and train others.
Have you done any surveys on the coaches, supervisors level, their viewpoint or needs? Not yet. Yet being the operative word. We are working on it. As you saw from our presentation, it seems like the flow of being able to get the focus group, get the survey, get it launched, it's about one per year, and we're slowly adding. We got 3 out of 4. We will get there.
I think we're wrapping up, but we have just one more question, which is Jenny asked, I wondered what the compensation was for doing the survey. We also find that delivering in-person services is best. Virtual meetings have their place when needed. So she's asking about any kind of compensation for the folks who completed the survey.
Yes. So each participant received $25 for the survey. And then every time they do a follow-up survey as well, they will get another $25. So that always helps getting people to participate when there's compensation involved.
Well, if there's, it looks like we have one more question. Lots of thank yous. Lots of thank yous. Well, as we wrap up, just another reminder to please complete the session survey. You can locate that survey. It's the little square with the checkbox. I think rather appropriate for this for this session. So please do honor our need to collect information about how well you enjoyed the session or things that you would like to improve. So we definitely read this and appreciate your feedback very much. So it is the icon that is second from the bottom on the vertical menu. And so definitely make an effort to click on that now. It'll just take you a second to complete before you exit the screen. And so Our speakers have been very timely and we are right on time. So I'm excited to share that you have got about 20 minutes before our next keynote session, which is our final session for this afternoon. And so you've got a good time to kind of take a stretch break and check out the lightning talks, go join a booth, check out the wellness room if you just kind of need to download and just kind of breathe for a little bit. We've got some good folks in there to support you throughout the day. And we are so excited that you are hanging out with us and look forward to your participation in the keynote session this afternoon. And if you would just thank me, show some love to our speakers. Oh, wow. Look at that. Christopher, I love your comment. He said this is one of the few times where data content delivery didn't make my head spin. So that's not
Oh,
praise. I don't know what is. That's
thank you.
excellent. I'm so glad. So please show our speakers some appreciation via the emoticons or in the chat. And I just want to thank you all for your precious time and attention and energy this afternoon. And we will see you back in the main session in a few minutes.